When talking launching and selling products on Amazon, Neil Tua is your man. His company Voltage Holdings has gone on to great success, but it wasn't always that way. Neil has had his share of challenges, and that is part of the reason why he has succeeded. Welcome to Insights into Success. All right, Neil, thank you so much for joining us on Insights into Success. We've had a little bit of a false start here where I forgot to push record, so let's take it
Let's
all
do
over
it again, round two.
Absolutely, and I'm sure it's going to be even better the second time.
Absolutely.
I was just wondering if you might be able to start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what exactly you do right now.
Okay. Well, in simple terms, as we talked about a minute ago, let's go back and see if I can make this even shorter, more succinct than the first time. So as I was mentioning in the green room, we live in the Ozark Mountains out here. We live on 40 acres with my wife and 4 daughters. And so we have a great family homestead out here where my parents are even on 5 acres, and we have aunt and uncles and out on the country roads here. We are busy with homeschooling. We're busy with our business. We spend a lot of quality time together, and specifically in the business time when I'm not hanging out with the family or doing activities around the property. I'm building and launching and scaling e-commerce companies with a specific focus on Amazon FBA, which takes up a good portion of my time, but is a fun venture. So we build those companies and we exit them and acquire them along the way.
Right. Well, I'm interested to hear a bit more about how you got to do what you're doing right now, but before that, I'd like you to take us back to the early days and give us a bit of insight into your informative years growing up, where they were, what life was like for you, and how that might have influenced you in doing what you're doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was younger, I had a passion for technology and really discovered, the computers and things as I'm not that old at 45. There was a lot of time that has changed the world with the internet. And got to be privy to the early stages of that, and got an opportunity to be a part of university life and stuff where they were just launching computers and Windows 3 and then 95, and it was just transforming the way business was being done and life was being done and things. Suddenly we had email. That was a new thing. And I went to university on a full ride music scholarship. I found a passion for music and spent most of my education years competing and going all state and playing in the band and music and jazz. And so I went to university to believe I was going to become a musician. And by the year 3, I realized I was going to be poor in a van down by the river if I didn't figure out my life. And because e-commerce was so new and I had a passion for that, but yet university had not caught up. And colleges were certainly not aware of how to, monetize, teach, or transcend what was really just a daily trying to keep up with what was happening every day as technology and the internet was advancing so fast that I dropped out my 3rd year to go into the corporate world because that's where the money was being spent. That's where you could learn on the job, and people were still willing to, obviously get you involved because nobody knew what they were doing really. And so I had an opportunity to do that. And I had a specific interest in going into e-commerce and online business and international business with that. So I always had an idea that I would eventually somehow get to where I was. Of course, where I am now is not exactly where I thought I'd end up. That's for sure. But went off into corporate world and spent about 12 years in that. I advanced myself through Sprint and the original mobile phone launches, helping with the customer support side of that, and the building the systems required to support such fast and hyper growth. When I was contracting with Sprint originally as a programmer, self-taught because we didn't learn how to do web programming until we got into the job. Then I worked into a full-time position and helped be a part of that 5,000th employee when I got involved, because they were hiring everybody they could to get the mobile division of Sprint launched. It's much bigger obviously now. And by the time I left, there was over 80,000 employees. It had just gone full hyper growth in 5 years. It was a tremendous thing to watch from the inside. We did a project with IBM. It went very well. I had a lot of help and a lot of insight and a lot of abilities that I brought to the table after years of figuring some things out in applied knowledge that I got offered a job at IBM. And so I got picked up at IBM. And started, we call it, I've been moved. So I started flying around the country 2 or 3 times a week.
And what was your role?
Here. Yeah.
And what was your role with IBM?
So my role with IBM was helping to basically develop knowledge management systems, systems that learned human interaction and machine language learning. We were building the ability for technology across, human interaction, as well as what's called tacit and implicit knowledge, which you all have, as well as database and other types of assets that could be utilized to answer customer questions faster and more effectively. And so we built systems that allowed the customer reps to basically make that go faster. So it had a lot of technology and business, and it had a lot of understanding people and understanding how they learned, and then applying that into the technology, and specifically into the customer support areas of places within the mobile industry.
And were you doing programming yourself, or were you on the design side or management side? What role?
So when I
have?
transitioned that first role, I was programming in the early days of Sprint, and then I transitioned into the program management and project management components of it, and then into the business and the business relationship component. So I was the one who literally helped define the project, the plan, how much it was going to cost, how many people were going to be deployed, and how long it was going to take to do, and then of course helping to execute that whole rollout. Those are relatively large products. For most instances, we didn't work anything less than $1 million. So we were building companies within companies that had larger POs than some companies even make in a year. So it was very fascinating to watch that occur on that scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So around 2007, IBM and I both said we had enough. They wanted to move my division to Argentina, and I said no.
Oh, wow.
It's time to go. So I took what was referred to at that point as an early retirement from them, and decided that it was time to finally get my feet into full business mode. I had some side hustles, some hobbies. I had ran a game server company and servers where we had thousands of customers that were paying us. And I was doing that while I was at IBM, just learning to build that business. But by the time I left, management consulting firm is what I started, and was basically hiring other management consultants to work at IBM on contract, and other divisions, and the U.S. Census Project and public sector projects. And I did a lot of that while continuing to learn how to elevate my online marketing skills, and really learn how to reach people in the online world, as that was being advanced a lot more. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no. So like from an early age, did you always have in the back of your mind the concept of becoming an entrepreneur and working for yourself, or was that just something that evolved through your career that you came to the realization you wanted to do it?
No, I always really knew that I never fit in that corporate structure. I used it.
Right.
I used it for its ability to get me to learn on the job, to make networking and connections. I knew at some point I would be an entrepreneur. That was the way I was going to do it. My dad wasn't, but he worked his life in a position and did very well, and just spent 28 years in the same company and retired. But I had uncles, and one of my uncles was very successful in business and gave me a lot of opportunity and insights to understand entrepreneurialism, and a different way of thinking about things, and money and finances and opportunities that really expand and challenged my growth. And it had a lot of conversations with him about that kind of thing, and really led me to understand there was a different opportunity than just a straight 9-to-5 like I had done in the past, and helped me to bridge my mindset, really. Which was a huge component of even attempting to do all that in the first place, was the belief that I could. And he really helped me understand that no matter what it would end up being, as I applied myself to that area, I would be successful with it. So I always knew that it would happen.
Right. Okay, so you went out as a consultant. What happened from there?
I had more consultants. I ended up in a staffing firm where I had over 10 management consultants, high billing hours. Nothing less than 175 an hour, and where we had a great management consulting firm doing projects where we subcontract out to a lot of different work and handled projects in that field, specifically within the mobile divisions of these other companies. When that was doing well, I had time to dabble. And as I said, I'd learned more about the online marketing space and how to expand not my, just my business, but my knowledge, as I'm always been in learning mode, and testing and failing and see what worked. And found out I had a really good aptitude for mobile media buying. It was kind of a numbers game, but it was also a gut instinct. It was also really understanding the customer and really determining what kind of buying signals they might see from literally mobile ads at this point, which you might think of, some people here might think of AdWords or Facebook or running paid traffic on those kinds. But we had spreadsheets we were uploading into systems because there was no mobile interfaces yet. There was no Facebook marketing, and Google Ads was not caught up. So we were loading spreadsheets and creatives, and we were doing cost per click install and these kinds of things for mobile apps, and discovered we could do very well with it. And I was literally running that on an internet connection a very slow dial-up slash internet Wi-Fi device that I was running when I learned how to do that, because we were living in the country in Oklahoma at that point. And just discovered I had a good aptitude for it and got very successful with it. And it led me to understanding the business of online lead generation and buyer signals. And that led me to running products, physical products in companies who wanted more customers for those products. And that's when I discovered you could actually sell products on Amazon. I had a friend introduce me to that concept in about 2011. Because I had the experience with search engines within the knowledge sphere. And I had understood large systems and artificial intelligence and the way that systems, were being programmed. When I saw how Amazon was just a large search engine for products, I immediately knew quite a bit about what it wanted or what it was doing. And so because of that, I understood that it's a traffic source like anything else. It was a traffic source of people who wanted to buy products. And I thought, okay, there's got to be something big here coming. And so we started to build our own products and put them into Amazon, and found out very quickly that the engine, was doing what we wanted it to do, because we were giving it what it wanted in simple terms. And it was started to reward us with more products and more traffic and more sales. And we just kept going faster and faster. And we just kept adding products and then branding into brands, which really transformed the business model when we, started to brand the products and identify additional customer revenue streams and got more buyers. And it just started to go really fast. People caught on to what we were doing and started asking us, hey, teach us how to do it.
Right. So can I just pause you there? Because a couple of things I would like to understand better there is, so when you talk about products, where were you getting these products from? Where were you getting them from?
Well, at this point, it was beg, borrow, and steal to a degree, all ethically and within the terms of service. But we were looking at product arbitrage at that point. We were just looking to see, could we buy low and sell high in the system at that point? Many of the current restrictions Amazon faces with those that type of buyer seller methodology, that arbitration on Amazon, was wide open. It was kind of a Wild West. And so we were able to just go out and find products that were already manufactured. Some of them were considered what's called white label. They had been pre-produced, but the manufacturer hadn't got rid of them yet. And we would put our logo and our box on it. And we would get it shipped into Amazon, and we'd find out if it would sell, and then we would get more of it. If we couldn't get more of it, we'd move to another product. And pretty soon we realized that model was going to be very difficult in an economies of scale to really take to a large level. And we understood at that point that it was time to start finding the brands and having them private label manufactured for us uniquely, and then giving us the intellectual property or IP. As well as the business drivers that we were looking for. Now, I say we because my partner, Reed, and I met in 2012. And together with his operational brain, his CFO, his 25 plus years, now 30 plus years of management experience in the financial realm, he understood the numbers and the business and the operational and logistics component. I understood the system and the marketing and the customer avatar. And together, now 9 years later, we have established many brands, sold companies, and taught thousands of other people to replicate what we're doing with success.
So how did you meet your business partner? How did that come about?
A mutual friend introduced us in our network. Turns out we were on two different paths. The gentleman who introduced me to the concept that you could even sell products on Amazon, which I didn't know. Turns out he had met Reed at another online discussion. And when he heard the two of us, he said, I think you two should meet. And he introduced us. After one conversation together, we realized we were two halves of the same coin. And that we really needed to get to work. And we did.
So geographically, where are you in relationship to one another?
So he has lived in Utah and now Idaho, and I have stayed was in Oklahoma and now in Missouri. So geographically,
right. So you've always been separated.
Correct.
And so obviously that's never been a problem. And the other thing I want to touch on is the fact that for a very long time, well before most of us, it sounds like you've effectively been working remotely online. Like we talk a lot now about people now working from home. It's a fairly new concept, but from what I'm understanding with you, that's something you've been doing for years.
Over a decade or more. I have to go back in time here since 2003, roughly, when I was handed a laptop and a cell phone and said, go, and here's your Amex card. You need to be in New York, and then you need to be in Columbus, and then you need to be in, South America. It's like, go. So I was already in that mode before I started on my own. So virtual and Zoom was not a part of that. We did Skype before Zoom showed up, and have been virtual for now almost most of my career.
And I guess for you, as technology's advanced, it's just become easier and easier. In the early days, it would be more problematic because the technology wasn't what it is now. Like you
That's
weren't.
a very good point. People complain
Yeah.
about how difficult some things are now, but you have no idea the level of trouble we faced with so many complexities. I mean, just dumb little things like when the internet was online and you wanted to network together something machine wise, or you wanted to play video games and together, you had to set up, and it took us like hours to get all the machines just to talk to each other before you could even play a game of Doom. That's aging me, right?
Wow.
And we had to go to my friend's father's government office where the computers were even networked to do that in the first place. So yeah, it is really easy now to figure out how to make money in the online world. And that, I think, actually confuses some people. So maybe we can help
Right.
simplify some of that today.
So let's just talk a little bit more in depth about your journey so far. Now, I know from
Yeah.
talking to you before that it hasn't all been plain sailing.
No.
You have had some issues along the way.
Absolutely.
If you wouldn't mind, it would be good to hear a little bit more about those and what they were and maybe what you learned from it.
Yeah, it's a great question because a lot of people don't always want to share the bad stuff, the ugly stuff,
Yeah.
is, as Jim Collins says in Good to Great, the nasty, ugly things that are under the rock, because we all have them. And to be real and transparent, I've had my fair share. I have had a divorce that was very destructive to my life and caused me to literally completely reset my life, give up all of my goods and down to a car of goods of stuff that I had, and just restarting life. I have gone bankrupt, which pretty much wrecked me financially, and had to do that due to a bad business deal that I could not get myself out of correctly. And the lawyers are like, well, to indemnify yourself, the strategy is to go bankrupt. And I'm like, well, that's great. So there are worse things in life, by the way, than going bankrupt. Turns out now I know, most of my friends who are millionaires have done it 2 or 3 or 4 times. And I think the average is like 4 or 5, if I remember correctly. Could be a little bit more of people who are millionaires who went bankrupt. So when you risk things, it's to what level of risk you're willing to take. And I've had that experience. So my boundaries have very much expanded in terms of what I think is capable versus what I think is real risk versus perceived risk in my life. My wife has had significant medical issues during our pregnancies, which led to me basically at one point being a businessman, a dad, and a mom. Because she had a very bad medical procedure that was supposed to be a 2-day simple in and out deal. It turned into a life-saving event, and she died 3 times between the time she went to the operating room and then on the operating room table and then afterwards. And then took a year to recover from something that should have only taken about 5 or 6 weeks. And we had 4 small children at that point. And so that was, dad was everywhere with a lot of support from friends and family. So it was a very difficult time in life and business. And we all have those, right? We all have different levels. While she did not die, and I'm thankfully grateful that she's here today, it did change a big perspective and certainly a good component of my life. It did reinvent me as a person because I now had to learn how to juggle all of those things for a family of 6. While still growing my business opportunities. So there are, cons to those, right?
That must have been really challenging time for you.
It was a lot of stress, but it did, for me personally, it challenged my faith. It challenged who my real friends are and who my real family was. Because at the end of that, I had a lot of things I couldn't fall back on. I had friends that were embarrassed to be with me because we went bankrupt. I had family that thought we were crazy because we had too many kids and this is what we deserved. It was a tough time because there were people who you thought you could lean on and they weren't there. So if you really want to challenge yourself in life and find out who your true friends and family are, deal with something very devastatingly medical or go bankrupt and you will find out real fast who's in your corner.
Now I want to take you back to that bankruptcy because I want to understand a little bit more about how you view it now and what, if anything, you learned from that. So looking back now, how do you see it? How do you see that bankruptcy?
Some would look at it and say, well, that's a red flag. This guy may be, incapable, of handling finances and knowing his boundaries. Others would say, I won't do business with you because, those are the reasons and I don't like it. Or others would look at me and say, and I've had this, I'm glad that you went through that because I'm willing to do business with you because now you know what it looks like to have come back and have dealt with those situations when your back is against the wall. So again, it's perceived very differently by every person. Some have real fear and risk in that. For me, I now realize after going through that, after dealing with it, after reading books, talking to people, getting mentors, and struggling through it, one of the things that really resonated for me was the phrase, feel the fear and do it anyways. Susan Jeffries wrote a book about that, and that was really profound to me. It spoke to me to feel that fear and to continue forward. So that bankruptcy, again, was not the worst thing in my life that had occurred. The feel the fear moment and do it anyways was the recognition that I may be a single dad with 4 babies that are 5 and under. And that I was going to have to do life without my wife, and I was going to have to, figure out my business and handle everything with 4 small children. So, the bankruptcy now, as I look back on it, was very small. It was a blip on the radar compared to all other things. And I learned at that moment how to deal with that because the consequences of other things in my life sort of trumped it. So for me, I see maybe a little differently than others. I saw less of a loss of income, less of a loss of money, which was obviously a big factor. And I saw an opportunity to challenge myself and to really see what I was made of. And obviously to put my faith in something bigger than me at the end of the day. And that was really where I felt I made a true conversion and a true belief and understanding that Jesus Christ is real for me. And that was going to be a good component. I needed it. I had nowhere else to go. I have screenshots of, a point in which I had $267 on my bank account for children, and I needed to make the next month's payments. And that's real struggle.
That's at the extreme level.
And I look at it and laugh, and I think it's funny, and it's a part of my story, and it's the way it was. Walking through that was not fun. And it's not fun for anybody who's going through it right now. I guarantee it. But the difference I see now versus then, and I think that maybe it resonates with someone who might be listening on this, is there are those of us out here who still will literally pick up our shovel and go to work. I literally would have dug ditches if needed. I didn't have to. It wasn't required to. But I went to find a job to do anything necessary. I discovered something about myself that I never knew was possible. That's one of the biggest takeaways for me. And that is that when back against the wall, I will fight. I'm a fighter.
Right.
And if you have any inkling that you might be that person, feel the fear and do it anyways. Because there's always a good fight to put up, even in the midst of what feels like very dark moments that we all go through.
Yeah. So looking back now, do you consider going through that experience has been one of your more educational points in your life? Like, do you feel that you learned more from that than, say, when things have gone well?
Oh, absolutely. Things that go well are too easy to mess up. There's complacency in that. It's one of the 3 major components of a business failure. Obviously, knowledge or lack of the correct knowledge and applied knowledge to do what you should do and focus on the real activities, not just things that are masked as productivities. There is the monetary consumption needed to build the capital or deploy the capital or even have it in the first place. So underfunding is a major component that you might fail at. And then there's complacency on the other side, which is overfunding, success, and being too complacent that you don't recognize the signals of when things are going wrong. And the ship and those trains starting to go off the rails. So for me, it created a very good understanding at this point of the signals that I should be looking for that I simply didn't see before. They weren't in front of me. Call it cognitive dissonance or whatever you want to call it, or shock in the moment or dealing with it. I simply didn't know what I should be paying attention to. Now I know very well. Yeah. So now it creates a good boundary. I know how to read people a little differently. I now understand when people can influence lies without saying them, which is one of the things I learned about that business relationship because of the partners that were in it that led me astray. And literally we're cooking 2 sets of books. And when I discovered the 2 sets of books, that's when things went really bad. And now I've identified what that looks like and how to address people in the way that I can manage that. And then, of course, the finances and component of finances. I took a very strict rule of financial opportunity and evaluation and due diligence at a very different perspective than I did prior to that. So it's given me some very good insights.
So you talked before about the varying responses to your bankruptcy.
Yes.
I have a view of America, but it's from outside, and so I don't know to what extent it's correct. But I'll tell you my perception, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, obviously it's to degrees; it's not absolute. But
sure.
One of the things that has been my impression of America, to America's credit, is that by and large, obviously exceptions, but by and large, that Americans are more willing to interpret bankruptcy, business failures, as a positive, that it's just part of the journey. It shouldn't stay with you for the rest of your life, and that you'll learn a lot from that. They'll potentially make you better and stronger for the future. Now, in the country I come from, New Zealand, we come from predominantly English background, which is very conservative. So the overwhelming interpretation of a bankruptcy in our country is very negative.
Yeah.
That you're a failure, you're obviously not capable, that you've managed to become bankrupt. And I think that's wrong. And I think, as much as I'm not proposing that you encourage people to go bankrupt for the sake of bankruptcy, obviously, but if it happens, then it's probably going to be one of your greatest learnings in life. And through that, you can potentially, I think, learn and do a lot more. And as you said before, it's choosing where you are in the continuum of risk.
Yes.
And if you really want to do something, you are going to push the boundaries. And there could be times when you just go a little bit over. And that's part of it. But if you don't take risk, you don't achieve anything either. You might not go bankrupt, but you could end up, say, for instance, working in the same job for the rest of your life and not really having a lot to show for it at the end of it.
Correct.
But what I'm interested to hear from you, from your experience, and I know it's just kind of, you can't say in absolute terms, statistically significant terms, but what's your sense in America, the proportion of people that would see bankruptcy in a more positive light? Not something to be encouraged, but if you go through it, then that could actually make you better in the future.
Well, here's what from my own perspective, here's what I do know. I do know that whether it's recognized or not, the majority of businesses in America are small businesses, roughly 80%. So we do tend to focus, I think, a lot on the larger corporations because they're easy targets, but we don't acknowledge the 25 million small businesses that exist in America. It's one of the largest in the world. And because of that, there's a lot of people involved. And the subjugation of that is that the internet allowed for so many more people to get into business in ways that were not previously capable, right? Not everybody could be a farmer. Not everybody's going to be an electrician. Not everybody's going to but everybody could get on the internet and give it a shot at being in business, right? So that creates a couple of things in my mind that kind of lead to where we're going here. And that is because of the statistic relevance, I think somewhere in those numbers, there are many people who are failing and there are many people who are succeeding. And because of the internet component of that, we see many people succeeding on the internet, which gives hope and rise to the idea, of course, that I could do it too. Others have done it. And when I look at their story, many of my friends who were successful had many failures at what they did publicly and they eventually established a good business off of what they, never necessarily started out doing, but what they ended up doing. Very similar to the way I think a lot of people may run through, at least in my perception, run through their degree of graduation and then go get a job and doing something completely different than their degree. And there's that component that happens in businesses, especially in the online world. We get into components that we wanted to do or things we thought we'd end up doing. And eventually, I started in management consulting and I went into online and affiliate marketing. And now I'm in an e-commerce business and kind of really honed in my niche and my skill set and my business into that area. But if I hadn't tried those 3, 4, 5, 10 other things, I would not have ended up here. So there's not a one and done mentality that I find that a lot of business people in America have. Those who are really set and truly understand the opportunity that is business, whether it be the time, the position you're going to go after, the business you're going to go after, or the capital money you're going to put into it. Those who are in business with any experience whatsoever understand that it's going to take some time and money and energy to get out there and figure out exactly where your place in that lies. And I think that has changed the understanding from a lot of people. It really does. There's a group, of course, I know that still have that, what I call the scratchers mindset, the lottery mentality mindset. If I just scratch it, it's just, boop, it's going to happen. But they tend to be part of the failure. Now, can they continue to succeed? Absolutely. I've seen people who've kind of started out that way, found their way eventually through it and became successful. The last part of it, I think Americans are, at least in my experience, we're pretty tenacious. As a group of people, at least in my, generation, and the ones above me were fighters.
Yeah.
If you look at the fight or flight mentality of most Americans, I think the world kind of thinks, at least I see it. I mean, outside the country and travel, they think we're fighters, and they think that we are. I think as a majority, still those who believe in the American dream, the idea that there's more than what I'm currently doing if I go after it. I mean, I work hard and I apply myself, and I may struggle and fail, but I'm going to keep going. That opportunity exists. It's still there, and anybody who wants to go after it can go get it.
Yeah.
That is a fundamental component of our culture.
Right. So you think overall, the general tendency is towards acceptance of bankruptcy as just part of that journey, as opposed to frowning upon it as a very black mark in your reputation.
I agree. It has changed dramatically, especially in the last 20 years.
Yeah. And I think that's something to be encouraged and commended with Americans. Something that we need as a country to learn from. I think we're far too much the other way, too conservative. And as I say, I'm not proposing that you just clap and cheer every time someone fails, but that you respect the fact. Yeah, you respect the journey that they've been on, and like anything, it's through making mistakes that you learn. And so long as you learn, that's the critical thing, is it not?
It is the idea that I'm learning along the way, that failure is a path to success.
Yeah.
And that what we refer to as fail up, don't fail out. The idea that I just tried this one thing and it didn't work, well, I shouldn't ever try that again because it didn't work. And that's actually the wrong way to think about it. It really is a mindset issue at that point, and a confidence issue that if I keep going, I will eventually get it. Here's an example for the campaigns that I actually mentioned earlier, the online marketing campaigns, the stuff I was doing with mobile ads and app installs. I must have tested 20 different countries where we were sending that traffic to. I know I tested well over 300 marketing campaigns before it started to take off, and eventually figured out which ad campaign and creative actually worked out of South Africa. And then pretty soon it was $100, $500, $1,000 a day, and it went up from there in profits. If I'd given up at 297 or 299, I would have never hit it. If I stopped on country 5, I wouldn't have hit it. And that was my learning curve. I'm sure someone who had more experience or aptitude and could have got there in, a shorter period of time than I did. It really wasn't the point. The point was I kept going until I figured it out. And that's, again, why at that point, I kind of figured out the formula. I kind of understood what I needed to do and what I was doing wrong. And from then on, I launched more and more successful campaigns that grew from that position once I understood where that boundary was. And I think a lot of people have that opportunity, but I see them failing out at the 11th hour. They just kind of give up right at that last minute.
Yeah, and that brings a really interesting point, and it's something that I personally struggle with, and I think most people struggle with, is that we get conflicting messages. On one hand, we're told don't give up.
Right.
The other hand, you're told you got to know when to give up and move on to the next thing. Don't keep flogging a dead horse.
Right.
So,
again,
that's
those are
the
two
challenge.
sets of mindsets. Those are two mindsets. That is glass half empty or glass half full.
Correct.
Right. And what I'm looking at it and saying is, well, there's only so much liquid. There's not enough liquid. You got to look at it differently, right? It's what's in the glass, half empty or not half full. It's what's in the glass. Am I playing with water? Am I playing with gas? Is it going to blow up in my face, or can I drink it? The difference is really understanding, and that comes from experience. You can't necessarily just listen to somebody and take it at face value 100%. You actually need to get in there and say, was it right? Is it true? Yeah, it actually is. I just tested it. I tried it. What I love about e-commerce, and what I have kind of discovered in the 9 years of just Amazon FBA only selling while doing additional e-commerce, we do stay majority focused on that channel, because people want to buy stuff. They want to buy everything in 30 seconds or less. And so they're clicking buy all the time, which is $630 million a day in sales on Amazon. You can't, there's a lot of traffic and a lot of buyers. And that is the idea that I should build a product. And if that one product doesn't work, I failed. And that's kind of where we're headed. So I tried a second product, and maybe I get a little more sales, but it doesn't do quite as well. I try the third product, and okay, now this one's starting to work. I try the fourth product, and it's like, all right, now we're hitting, all cylinders. By the time you get to the fifth product, all of a sudden things go like crazy. But you may have failed the first 4 products, but you hit that fifth product, and all the money, time, and energy that you put into those first 4 is gone, because that fifth one will make up 10 times more than the 4 you failed on. But if you had given up, you wouldn't have had that opportunity. So I have liked e-commerce because it gives people an opportunity to see the chance of putting additional products in correctly and continuing to find those products in their brand until they find a successful one, and then scale it, and then test, fail, fail, fail. Here's a better way to analogize it. If you're a baseball player at all and you understand anything about baseball, batting a 300 is literally the top of the game, which means at 10 times to bat, you failed 7 times.
Yeah.
So if you just think about it for a second, you're going to fail more times than you're successful. And so if you don't try enough times and even fail enough times, you will not find that success. It simply does not happen the first time every time. That's that lottery mindset mentality we're talking about. That scratcher's idea. And that is not realistic in terms of anybody's business success at all.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's such a good message, and that just obviously reminds me of Michael Jordan and talking about how many times he failed to make those shots, but he still finished probably the greatest basketball player of all time. And the same with Thomas Edison, for instance. He had over 1,000 patents, but a lot of those things never went anywhere. But again, we remember him as a very successful inventor.
You remember the thing he did to successfully, not all the failures he had. But as entrepreneurs, we do. And it literally is a joke. If you've seen the meme where, people believe business starts at 0 on the axis and then goes straight up in a vertical, and there's your success. And it looks like overnight success, 15 years to overnight success, right?
Yeah.
It really is a plate of spaghetti. And that's, if you understand that you're getting spaghetti, then you get your Parmesan cheese, and if you're using ketchup or whatever else, you grab the condiments and you go for it. If you understand that. If you're thinking that you're going to go a vertical line and you're handed a plate of spaghetti, all of a sudden your mindset changes, you shift, and your expectations are very different than reality.
And I think what you've just hit on there is really a crux of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and one of the messages I wanted to get through from doing this, and that is that with the media, they're too often to sell their publications of that. They want to sell the overnight rich story.
Yes.
Because most people are inherently lazy, I believe. They want to hear that it's you just simple things and you're rich, or simple things and you get on this amazing body. They don't want to hear that actually you've got to work hard for the next couple of years and be strict on your diet to have this incredible body. They want to think that you're for 5 minutes a day for a couple of months, and the next minute they're ripped. And it just doesn't work like that. But it's appealing to human weakness.
It is.
So with this,
go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so with this, podcast, part of that message I want to get across is that there may be occasionally, but it's unrealistic to expect everything to go smoothly. Yep. But if you understand that before you commence your journey, then you're better able to equip yourself and cope with the issues that you have. And as you describe it, as it's been like spaghetti. But if you are expecting it just to go smoothly, and if it doesn't go smoothly, then that's a vindication that you're doing the wrong thing. You need to quit. Then you're not getting the right message.
It's good to have an audience around you who understands that, and that is where levels of taking a course or a program or a college or a university or some other kind of track of knowledge and education is one defined path of knowledge and learning. As I've told you in the past, knowledge implicit and tacit in the gathering of it, and really understanding how people learn in different ways, audio, visual, but how they read, and it can interpret the same paragraph 2 different ways from 2 people. Or they can, receive a certain message on audio or video, and someone will say, well, I heard him say left, and the other person will say, well, I heard him say right. Is to understand the basis in which that knowledge is being accumulated by the person. And as we go through and we learn how to adjust that as a practice, one of the best guidelines that I finally took hold of and then started to practice was mentorship. So I reached out to those and took a chance and even paid money. A lot of money now every year, about 25 grand every year goes to mentorships with people who are above me and in business, to give me the guidelines and help me pull straight lines out of spaghetti, because I can still get confused as an entrepreneur, as somebody who gets a little bit distracted at times. We have ADHD moments. We have trouble focusing. We have trouble with time management. We have trouble with sometimes applying ourselves. I need those mentors to hold me accountable. I won't be able to continue my game forward and continue my opportunities and even weigh some of this in counsel without those mentorships. They're hugely beneficial to people. And as I have understood that, I have evolved my business into a position of allowing that mentorship to occur for others in the same way that I didn't get it when I started in 2011. We now provide a mentorship for people to give them that step, help them stay in line, say, okay, here's the spaghetti, but here's only the parts we're going to focus on, to not be distracted, and give that opportunity for success and true one-on-one mentorship. That creates an opportunity for people to truly know some of the boundaries at an interpersonal level. I wasn't given that benefit until much later on. If I had gotten it much sooner, things would have, I may have avoided some of my major pitfalls.
Yeah. Okay. So question, you've touched on it. Question for you. What does success mean to you? What is your personal definition of success? I'm interested to know.
So once upon a time, it was wealth building. Once upon a time, it was monetary. Once upon a time, it was about houses and cars and trips and other things. And the lifestyle I wanted to create was about that presentation and look. Not just the bankruptcy, but I think the fundamental understanding of what is worth more in life than just monetary value was my family, and understanding the time I could spend with them and the time I could pour into them, both in education, but in life and in leadership within my household. Wealth to me has been redefined by health, by structure of family, by the time we spend together, by our opportunities to influence and be a part of other people's lives, by giving back value to them in any way, shape, form we can, from anybody's perspective, whether it's donating our time, money, energy, our minds, our hearts, that there's an opportunity to use what I now consider to be wealth of knowledge and education and influence to affect the lives of others more positively and take less for our own. And so, we have adopted that as a family structure. We have adopted that as a life. And now I think I would say with confidence that my wealth is now surrounded by my family and my friends, and by the opportunities to witness major changes in the lives of those that we've impacted in our business, and see some amazing things occur with them that I get to witness firsthand and be privy to. They are the action takers. They are the doers. They get the glory. And it's wonderful to see that and see the confidence changes in their life and their structure, and marriages have been restored and families have been brought together. And it's gone more than just money and confidence in the lives of those people. And that drives a purpose for me that I believe has now really created wealth in my life, immeasurable wealth in that way.
Yeah. Nice. So tell me, what do you think are the keys to success? What are the key things for you that people need to do in order to be successful?
Well, number one, I think it's getting the right mindset of expectations. You touched on that a minute ago. The idea that we are impatient with the opportunity of success. And I think that it's a realistic understanding that if you in 12, 24, or 36 months can put together a business or an opportunity, however, or whatever shape it looks like, that redefines your current location, your opportunities, your ability to travel to see family, or whatever those metrics, the house you want to buy in another state you've always been wanting to move to, but you can't. Whatever those metrics are that you define as your success, realistically and in long-term success that stays with you and changes fundamentally what you're doing now. It's a 12, 24, 36 month reality. And if you are setting your mindset from the very beginning that is what it will take, then you will prepare yourself, your energy, your time, your family, spouse, money, whatever it takes to make that actually occur. So once you get that mindset right and you really understand that that's how true businesses are built in time, then you're setting yourself up with the first success metric.
Now, you've talked about earlier on about being an ongoing learner. To what extent do you think that's been an integral part of your success?
Every day I'm listening to podcasts, or I'm looking for book opportunities, or I'm talking to others like yourself and gaining knowledge from their lives and their experiences while diving into my own clients to understand them more. Every day is a learning experience. For us, as I mentioned earlier, we homeschool. So we are always in learning mode. Everything is an opportunity to learn. It never stops, from the kitchen table to breakfast, to when we're doing chores around the property, to when I'm in here teaching my 13-year-old what e-commerce means and what it could mean for her in the future to run her own company. Everything is a daily learning experience in my house. There's always science and business and technology and learning. And in Egypt right now, we're focused on the history of Egypt. So we're going through and learning as we go sometimes with our kids, which is a fun and fascinating experience to learn topics together that I was never taught before, never dived into, and to double click on those topics and learn along the way with our children, which creates a really unique experience to literally have a daily education happening in our house.
Now, what about mentorship? You've mentioned that before, and that's one thing I have observed with Americans, which again, I think to Americans' credit, by comparison to my knowledge of my country, and that is the use of mentors.
Yes.
To what extent do you think that that's played an integral part of your success?
Tremendously, because it's allowed me to not only understand my boundaries, but to understand my opportunities at a different level. By seeing someone who's already achieved that, I now recognize the possibilities that I can achieve that by using and leveraging their confidence. So the 3 C's of confidence, clarity, and communication are a big component in mentorship that lead your opportunity to replicate the success of the person you're working with. Bob Proctor, I'm going to quote this really terribly, but I'll give him the credit. He basically said mentorship is seeing the success in others that they do not see in themselves. A truly good mentor is willing to ask you questions, dive in, hold you accountable, not just listen to your excuses, but give you opportunities to overcome them and not placate you when you're doing things that are wrong. Okay. And calling what's dumb and saying, this is great, do more of this. A real mentor is one who truly makes you feel, or you do sincerely feel, that they have an interest in your success and are willing to help you through what it's necessary to make that success go. That is not going to be necessarily learned in a program course / education format. Not in my experience. It's usually done in a one-on-one. As I mentioned, my business initial mentorship change came from obviously understanding what my dad did in life and how he made his money and how we were taken care of. But a very different approach to it was with my uncle, who was an entrepreneur and built a boat company and got very successful at building boats and went on to do other things. He helped me understand a whole different breadth of opportunity, and to see that was within my reach, and to ask him lots of questions. And he spent lots of time helping me understand those things, connecting to people and networking, which was a huge opportunity to get into a one-on-one relationship with people that really helped me and challenged me to learn things that without them, I never would have understood or never really believed I could do.
And how do you choose your mentor, and do you tend to change them every so often, or have you kind of had the same one for a long time?
No, I do. Yeah. Fundamentally, some of my mentors are people that I've known for years. I don't necessarily pay them any more for that particular mentorship, but they're available in even more of a friendship capacity for some of them. If I needed to go, for example, last year, I needed to personally re-up my education on paid traffic skills. It's been a while since I've done that. I'm not really involved in that part of my business anymore. And when I went out into my network, I asked my network who is the right person to go learn the detailed aspects of paid traffic and media on, say, Facebook. And they said, you need to go look at John. Go talk to John. I connected with John. I said, whatever your program is, I'm buying it. I've been told you're the guy. So I went to John and bought his program and learned how to fundamentally do some of the things I had lost my skills on and obtained. And, so I will choose mentors based on particular topics of focus that I'm very interested in going after and learning about, or achieving as a value add to the business model that I'm in. I will not go choose mentors in areas that I'm not really interested in being focused as a part of my model. One of the balances of understanding that now is I would not deploy capital and time and energy into going out into real estate flipping unless I knew the security of my current business and its revenue streams had multiple tiers to them to support the business model and the operations and the people that were running those particular things. That would be a tangent. That would be a potential loss of opportunity. Now, could I look at that and say, there's an opportunity for me to do that because I could both learn it or adapt myself to their services, and their services might help me do some of those things so I don't lose focus on the activities that I'm doing, then I would consider that if I wanted to go after that particular track. Now, it's a matter of really understanding time and energy. Good mentors will help you really appreciate the truth about good business, and that is really finding your area of focus and continuing to dive into multiple streams of supporting that avatar, supporting that niche, and providing more and more value in that model is where you're ultimately going to see your success. It isn't that you necessarily do 10 different, completely different business types for your revenue streams. It's that you do a focused area with 10 different revenue streams built into it.
Right. So you're proposing that it's more a case of specialization. Don't try and go in a multitude of directions. Once you find your niche of that to go down there, you might vary slightly, but by and large, you're focusing on that one particular area.
Because I understand my customer avatar very well. I speak their language. And because of that, there's a simple phrase: double the understanding of your customer and you will double your income.
Yeah.
So if that's an area that you're diving into, you stay headstrong into that area until you realize that it can mostly run without you. At which point you can, dive into different areas of focus or interest.
And do you think that a lot of businesses, small businesses, can be guilty of not really understanding their customer as well as they should, and that's a failing for them because they're not catering to them to the level they could if they understood them better?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to, say, the restaurant industry or even the construction industry, but in terms of the business industry and in terms of, say, e-commerce, it is one of the things we work with our people to very much stay focused on understanding that the brand they're building could eventually have 100 products that touch 100 different kinds of people around their brand, who are all focused maybe on different ways of utilizing those products within their brand, but they could be in different areas of life and business or experience. They could be different genders, etc. They could be a lot of different things, but they all consume that brand. And because of that, they have commonalities. And if you understand those commonalities, you can touch all those different audiences. So you can continue to expand beyond and go wider and deeper into that area as you identify that customer profile, or avatar, as we call it, and really continue to service it and go deeper into it.
So just to wrap it up, do you want to just sort of give us a bit more of a profile and exactly, well, I guess the name of your business and exactly what your business does to help people with their businesses on Amazon?
Yep. So it's called Voltage. It's a digital marketing, but we also have a training. We have an entrepreneurial training and mentorship. We do a program of 12 months where we work with people in a one-on-one relationship to really help them build an e-commerce company with the exit in mind. So with our portfolios division, we have an M&A, mergers and acquisition aspect there, where we look to acquire or we exit those into my network of accredited investors, hedge funds, home offices that are looking to buy these companies because we are building them up. And we also service those in a managed service capacity. So for the business owners who have or want to build those companies and eventually put them in what's called a managed services contract, making them passive, we can manage those complete accounts for them. So in simple terms, we can launch a business, we can exit it in 18 to 36 months for 6, 7, or 8-figure paydays, and continue to repeat that process over and over again. And the simplest aspect of it for our builders is that they can repeat that process. It's what we call the platinum principle. You may have heard of the golden parachute, which is get to that top level and get your golden parachute and go out. Well, we call it the platinum principle, which is in essence, you can get your own parachute and pull it anytime you want. And that is the business model. You can build those companies up to 12, 18 months, sell them off, use the capital, do it again, and repeat the process. It's almost like a virtual real estate process. So we teach them from end to end.
Businesses that work with you, just so I got a better understanding, do they come to you and they've created their own products and they're looking to market them on Amazon, and then you help take them through that journey? Or is it ones that are maybe got contracts with other manufacturers and they're looking to have them branded into their brand and then sell them on Amazon? What do your clients typically look like?
Well, typically they actually look like people who have some experience in Amazon selling, but have never achieved the level and the understanding of what it takes to generate an 8-figure revenue on Amazon. Or they're people who have no experience in e-commerce and sometimes not even in business management. And they come to us and they say, I really want to do this business model. Would you help me learn how to do it? And so again, I got people with military careers who are active. I got lawyers, I got franchise owners and people who own 9 Subways, and guys who own multiple Chick-fil-A's, and others who own multiple real estate ventures. They want to diversify income. They want to open up new revenue streams. They know that as they learn the business under us and become the CEO of the company, that they can hire additional people to run it for them, or that our company can take over management for them and bring that out into a larger scale. So they typically are people who really realize that or have been looking for the opportunity to reach a mentorship level with someone because they're serious about the business and they want to build it up and they understand the opportunity to exit the company.
So they're generally not manufacturing the products themselves. They'll be identifying maybe a niche they want to focus on, and then they're going out and finding manufacturers to produce the products for them to then sell on Amazon. Is
That's
that the
correct.
case?
They're not generally manufacturers already, although we do have a couple people we work with who are manufacturers who are launching or scaling their brands on Amazon. We have existing companies who are looking to eventually exit, but they currently don't meet the potential of an exit, and they want to learn how to reposition their company, turn around their profits, and then take it to a position where they can exit it for higher multiples. And then again, those people who have literally golf course management and theology degrees who've never sold whatsoever, and have been looking for a way to start selling physical products online, and have heard somewhere else that Amazon FBA may be that opportunity for them.
Right. Wow. And so this business you're talking about, you've been doing that for what, the last 9 years?
This particular Amazon FBA businesses, yes, we have now 8 brands running of our own. We've been doing for the last 9 years.
Right. So you're walking the talk. So you got your own brands, you're doing your own products, but you're also now saying, look, we know how to do this, so we can now help others to replicate what we've been doing and achieving.
Absolutely. And one of the best things I think we do is we operate it in what's like a franchise model, but we don't take any ownership and we don't ask for any profit sharing, because the real goal for the company is to exit. So as people get involved with us, we help them build those companies and send them into the exit. So we give them access to our sourcing agents and graphics and all of our back office that runs our business. We give access to those people. It's a very invite only. I choose and talk to every person. I don't have a sales team. I don't need one because I have my own businesses. But I do like to mentor people, and my partner does as well. And we'll take on a group of 15 people who want to go with us. But each of them has to qualify. They need the right mindset. They need to understand the capital and the business opportunity. When we match up with those goals and objectives, people get great success in 6 to 12 months, repeatedly.
Right. Wow, sounds interesting. So in terms of your side of it, you get an ongoing fee for your service, and do you get anything out of them ultimately selling any sort of?
Well, it's a very interesting question you ask. It's a disqualification, actually. Most people think it's a sales process qualification, and somehow I'm going to sell you on the opportunity. That's not how this works. We invite people to mentor with us. The price point is at a disqualification price level for those who are really not serious. Because it is a 12-month program, we do have, and because we are very confident in building these companies to success, we do it under what we call a skin in the game or a performance mentoring fee opportunity, meaning we don't get paid the remaining half of our fees until they reach a performance goal with us. So they'll typically pay for the first 4 months on installments of the 12-month program, and then we're going to work together for those 12 months to reach that performance goal. When that occurs, then we get paid the remainder of our fees. At that point, they're running a very profitable and successful business, and we have an exit trajectory on that business, which I've already socialized to my portfolios group, that the opportunity is coming for this business to mature in the next 12 to 18 months until we continue that process. So we do it in such a way where we put skin in the game.
Yeah, sounds good. I like the approach that you're taking. Sounds great. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been great and really interesting to hear what you're doing. And it's just such a growth area, isn't it? And it's incredible to think back about Amazon and the days in which it was questioned whether Amazon was going to survive. There's all this debt that they're taking on board, and everyone was like, where's this all going? And looking back now, it's like incredible, really, isn't it?
It is incredible, and it's quite a system that they've built of infrastructure that allows us to have a lifestyle business where I don't have a warehouse. We work in the country. We travel for a month. It doesn't disrupt my business. It's created a really unique opportunity. It is the first channel in a multi-channel strategy. So as these brands go out and we prove them within Amazon, we now know we have mass marketing capabilities. And that's where my relationship with others like Harrington and stuff come in, where we can take those brands out to that network. We can put it on radio, television, media, infomercials, and other things when the brand matures, even taking it out to, I think I said retail already. But anyways, we can move that brand into household names and then sell it later on should that person want to do that. We have the capabilities of doing that mass marketing. It really creates a unique opportunity. And you're right. It's a double-digit growth in the last 24 months. E-com is one of the largest and I think the largest and fastest growing, no doubt, during this last 24 months. There's a Bank of America Forrester research study you can go look up that when I last looked at it said 21 trillion in offline assets are coming online in the physical product space by the year 2030. So in terms of
Wow.
opportunities, we barely even scratched the surface.
Yeah, amazing. Incredible, isn't it?
Very incredible.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Neil, for agreeing to be on Insights into Success. And thank you for your transparency and sharing your story. I think it provides us with some invaluable insight into what it really takes to go out there and be an entrepreneur and to succeed in whatever way that you deem success is too, I might add. So
Absolutely.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you. And I know you've agreed you're going to stay on for another interview where we're going to talk about Read to Succeed in a moment. But thank you so much for sharing with us today on Insights into Success.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.